Hi, I'm Harry Rock, and welcome to another edition of the Westfield Council on Aging Presents. This is a collaborative effort with Mike Squindo, Executive Director of the Westfield Senior Center, Tina Gorman, COA Special Projects Coordinator, and Pete Coles, producer of WCPC Westfield Cable Channel 15. Our topic today is probate and the family court, up close and personal. And this is a topic I'm personally looking forward to because I know nothing about the probate court process, not having not needed it myself in my own personal life. So it's going to be very interesting, I think, for all of us. Our guest today is Rosemary Sakamani, who is the Register of Probate, and we're going to be discussing her role as the Register of Probate and the Hampton Probate and Family Court. So, Rosemary, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you. And excited, I think, for our viewers and especially for me, as I mentioned, I don't know anything about the probate court. I've never needed it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everything there is about it. But before we get started, I always like to give our viewers an opportunity to meet the guest and kind of get to know who you are a little bit, so it personalizes you and also learn a little bit about your office and the position that you're in. And as I understand, it's an elected position?
Yes. First, I'd like to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here today and to speak with the folks and kind of give them some information about the Probate and Family Court. And yes, it is an elected position. It's a 6-year term. I'm in my 4th year,
Okay.
and I'm hoping to do it again in another 2 years to run again. So
Wow.
yes.
Wow. So obviously 4 years ago, I clicked off a little box with your name on it without knowing who you were. Absolutely. But I will definitely vote for you this next time.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that.
No question about it. And I'm assuming that your staff are not elected. They are hired by you or through the court process?
That's correct. The staff are primarily union employees.
Okay.
I supervise, there's 40 of us there.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm the 41st, but there's 40. I have
Okay.
40 employees, and all but 3 are unionized. So, yes, they go through the hiring process that is designed by the trial court, Massachusetts trial court.
Yeah. And did you work in that office prior to running for this position?
I did. I actually spent most of my career in the probate and family court. Started way back when. We're not going to get into years because then we'll be able to do some math and figure out an age. But yeah, for over 30 years, actually, I worked in the probate and family court, learning all the different roles and responsibilities. And I was fortunate enough in 2001, I was appointed as what was called a deputy assistant register, which gave me more managerial experience and responsibility, so that when this position became available, I jumped on the chance to run, and here I am, and I'm loving every day.
So obviously you were really the perfect person for this role because you had so much background knowledge and experience. You really understood the challenges and the opportunities that office can provide.
Yes, I believe that I was the perfect choice for this position, and I brought the skill set, I had the experience, and we, believe it or not, the Hampton Probate and Family Court right now is recognized as the flagship probate and family court throughout the state. So I guess I'm doing something.
Wow!
I guess I'm doing something right.
Congratulations!
So, yes.
That is outstanding.
Yes.
Well, we've got the right person here, obviously.
We do.
So let's talk a little bit about your role when you're in the office. What duties, what responsibilities do you have, and what does your daily work life look like?
So the primary responsibility of the Register of Probate is to administer the day-to-day operations of the Probate and Family Court. We handle all of the pleadings that come in. We are the official record keepers. So,
just so that people understand terminology, pleading, what does that mean?
A pleading is considered a document that you are filing, whether or not be a divorce complaint or child support complaint or a will. Those documents that you're filing is a legal term we call pleadings.
Okay.
So anything that gets filed with the probate court, we have to keep by law. And they go back to the 1800s, and
Wow, really?
yeah, we have all those records there. And we maintain the integrity of those records, and we prepare the documents for the court proceedings. We do the scheduling of the court proceedings, and we assist the general public in any questions or concerns that they have in order to get their documents filed with the court so that they can go through with the court process.
And then people are scheduling their court hearings through you or through the judges? You work with the judges?
The staff, so the probate and family court is basically broken up into 3 sections. There's the probate and family court registry office, which is the office that I oversee.
Okay.
Then there's the court piece of it where it's the judges and the judges' clerks.
Okay.
And then the probate and family court also has a probation office, which is called a family service office. And they do some mediation, and they do, if somebody is ordered to look for job searches, they monitor that. They make recommendations to the judges based on, after discussing things with the parties.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. And I always have to ask this question. What's the best part of your day? What's the best part of your job?
So,
If there is one.
no, it's a cliche, but I actually love what I do. And I'm very blessed to be able to do what I love. But what gives me personally the most satisfaction is helping the people. When people come into the probate and family court, they're not there because they want to be. Nobody comes to probate court because they want to be. They're there because they've lost a loved one and they have to settle the estate. Or they are getting a divorce and they have to navigate that process. Or child support, or custody, or visitation. So they're not really pleasant things that people are dealing with. So when folks walk in, you can actually see visually their body language change before your eyes if you're doing your job correctly. They come in, they're tense, they're stressed. They talk to a staff member or myself. They walk away, and you can actually see the stress released from their body language. And that, to me, is the greatest thing I can do, because I'm helping somebody.
Yeah, there's nothing more rewarding.
There is nothing more rewarding
Right.
than that.
And to your point, it is stressful, and and again, as I said, I don't know anything about the probate court because I've never had to utilize it, but that's why we're here. So, when you think about key responsibilities, I think we've kind of encapsulated that a little bit.
Yes.
What, in your mind, matters? We're talking to our senior population here in Westfield. What are, and I think you've mentioned a couple of them already, but the situations that people should be thinking about that are going to occur or potentially occur in their lives where they would need the probate court?
So the probate court handles and administers wills and estates. So when someone passes, they should hopefully have estate planning completed. And the process in which to complete that goes through our office. In addition to the estate process, there's guardianships. So there's guardianships of adults. So if somebody has dementia or Alzheimer's or some other medical ailment that may prevent them from being able to make decisions on their own, family members oftentimes have to use the probate court in order to get the legal authority to make those decisions. Another area that our elderly population might be faced with is guardianship of their grandchildren.
Yeah.
So when when the parents of these children can't, for whatever reason, care for their children, and the grandparents are often stepping in to
Right.
care for these
You
kids,
see that a lot.
they have to get some legal authority in order to do that, in order to enroll them into school, in order to take them to the doctors, and those kinds of things. Those kind of matters are held at the probate and family court.
Wow. So do people, I'm assuming that before they get to you, when they're thinking about this stuff, do they have to get an attorney themselves to work with to set the parameters around what they're trying to get, and then they come in and talk to you?
So the probate and family court is what's called a pro se court. So you can come to the probate court and be self-represented, where you don't need an attorney.
Oh, okay.
So what often happens is families or individuals, they'll sit around the table and they'll be talking about a topic and a family member will say, oh, well, you need just go down the probate court and they'll help you out with that. And they're correct. So they'll come to us. They will identify at the counter what they need, and we will help them navigate through the process as far as what they should do. The only caveat there is the probate and family court staff members, they cannot give legal advice. The court is a mutual disinterested party as far as any particular case is concerned. So if you were to come to us and say, you know, do I need to get a will, a trust, a healthcare proxy? We wouldn't be able to say to you, yes, you need this to navigate this, you need this to navigate this. We would suggest that you seek legal advice through your attorney to find out what is going to best suit your needs.
You have a website, I'm sure.
We do.
That has information on all of this. Is there anything that suggests steps or recommendations?
So-
for that, or do you stay totally away from that?
Nope. So the website is quite simple. It's mass.gov. And then in the search engine, you would just put probate and family court. And on that website, there is a lot of information. There's self-help information as far as if you identify that you want to process a certain type of action. Let's say you want to file for divorce. It goes through what's required, what's needed,
Okay.
where you can go, and how to get the information. And then it also has information on the website as far as our virtual registry, where you can, from your comfortable living room, you can Zoom on and actually talk to a staff member and help them help you navigate through that process as well.
Wow.
You don't ever even have to come into the courthouse if you don't want to.
Wow. But why not?
But why not?
And I just lost my train of thought of where I was going to go with that next question. So people should prepare themselves by really going to the website and researching before they even think about creating an appointment to come to you.
So it depends really on what kind of matter that they're talking about. So let's break it down a little. So if somebody is thinking about their estate planning and they have a general idea of what they want to do with that, let's say they want to create a will, they would then, they could look on the website. The website is not going to tell them how to create a will, but on the other side, once someone passes, it'll tell them what the steps that their loved ones have to take in order to get that through the process. The will should always be drafted by a licensed attorney because there's certain language that needs to be in that will. There's certain notarizations and witnesses that need to handle that so that it's a legal binding document. So if you want to draft a will, I suggest you talk with an attorney that practices in estate planning. But once that happens, if you want to know the next step, if someone passes away, what to do. So for instance, yourself, hopefully this doesn't happen in the near future, but if someone passes and you have been selected to handle the estate, you could go to our website and it'll tell you the steps on what you have to do in order to get that started.
Okay. So as we talk to our seniors, if they haven't put a will together yet, that's really one of the first steps that they
should.
They need to be thinking about what happens when. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. But when you
For all of us.
For all of us. But when you pass, where are your assets going to go? Or who's going to take care of you? Or who's taking care of your children or your grandchildren or
Correct.
whoever else is in there? But that's really got to be well defined ahead of time.
It should be. And it's funny because when I talk to people on a daily basis, they'll say, oh, I don't need to do a will. I don't have anything. Well, you do. You do have something. You have personal belongings. You have, you might have a checking account. You might have a savings account. You might have a Christmas club of some sort. You may own real estate, but you may not own real estate. If you are a renter and you have an apartment, who's going to be able to gain access into that once you pass? Those are things that good estate planning will be able to take care of. And it's funny because I always suggest if you have personal items that you have that you want certain people to get them, don't wait until you pass to give them to them. Give them while they're living so that you can see them enjoying them. Because
What a great piece of advice.
that's a lot of times people will come back and because a will might not say specifically
right.
what you want someone to have. And let's say you have a collection of something and you want your grandchild to have it, and yet your will says, I give all my personal belongings to my neighbor. Well, that grandchild may never see those items because it didn't specifically say that in a will. So let your grandchild have them now, and then let them enjoy them, and you can see them enjoy them. And then that's one thing you don't have to worry about.
You know, I love that piece of advice because my wife and I we haven't been very successful at this yet, but we've been talking about the fact that we need to start thinning out. You know, we've got a lifetime of possessions in our house. Some of them are treasured, some of them are just things that we've accumulated. But we know that we need to start thinning out and simplifying our lives a little bit. And, you know, we've thought about, well, we could give this to that person, give that, and wait. Why not now? I love that.
Why not now?
And it would also give them the opportunity to show their appreciation to
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
And have a lot more meaning than...
The only caveat is they might say, I don't want it. And then you're
That's
stuck.
true.
And then you're
true.
stuck.
Right. But you know, overall, I like that piece of advice. That is great. So I want to talk about settling estates for a second. I was on your website last night prepping for this, and Massachusetts probate law requires any asset that is owned by the decedent, thank you, at the time of their death to go through the probate process to change ownership. So what does that mean, and what's involved with that?
So, again, anything that an individual owns individually, that's in their name alone, that they own, when they pass, somebody needs to have the authority to administer that.
Okay.
And that basically is the probate court, what the probate court does. A will, if one has one, will designate who is to get what and how. If you don't have a will, the distribution is determined by law.
Oh.
And it goes by next of kin. And so we're getting complicated, but it's okay.
That's okay.
So when you have a will, you designate someone in the will to oversee your estate, to be what's called the personal representative. Another term that used to be used is called executor or executrix.
Yeah, right.
That person will be appointed by the court to administer the estate. They have checks and balances they have to follow. They have to provide the court with certain documents in order to get appointed. Once they're appointed, the court asks them to report to them back what the assets were,
Right.
and then how they distributed them. And then it's endorsed by either a magistrate, myself, or a judge to say, yes, this person did what they were supposed to do in the right way. If there's no will, it goes through a similar process. Somebody still is appointed, and then they go through the same process. But when you hear things like, if you don't have a will, everything's going to go to the state, that's only true if you have no legal heirs, no legal descendants.
Okay.
So if you are an only child and you have no siblings and you have no aunts and uncles and you have no parents and you have no children and you have no cousins, then yes, your assets could potentially go to the state if you don't have a will. Did that make sense? 'Cause it is
Yeah, it
complicated.
does. No, it makes a lot of sense. And what I'm taking out of that is, people, get your wills done. And get it done ahead of time so that you're really thinking about where your assets are going to go, who you want them to be given to, or if you want gifts to be made to nonprofits or whatever you want to do. The more that is established up front, the easier it is after the fact when you've passed. And having the state to figure that out, or other people to figure out what your intentions were, no question.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that my wife and I did right after we retired. We had a simple will, but we sat down, we found a attorney that handles seniors and specializes in that. And we really focused and put a lot of detail, time, and work and effort into that so that we know when our time comes, it's all taken care of.
The best thing you can do for your loved ones is to have good estate planning in place.
Right.
Because that will make the loss will be devastating to them, but that'll be one less thing that they have to worry about is going through that process.
Yeah, no question. I want to talk for a second. I've got a number of friends my age who look like me with lack of hair or white hair, whatever it might be. And unfortunately, they're in a situation where they are now caring for their grandchildren because of disruption with their own children's and married situations. These things happen. And so they are, they've been taking care of them, but now they're looking at guardianship and the need to have a legal right to make those decisions. How difficult is that, and what's that process like? Because, the family structure isn't the same as it was 50 years ago. It has definitely changed, and the grandparents taking care of little ones is a huge part of what our society is today.
It is.
And what does that whole process look like, and how difficult is that?
So the guardianship of a minor process it's not a difficult process. None of the processes are difficult unless somebody is challenging them. And in a guardianship of a minor situation, there's a series of forms that the proposed guardian would be completing, and they would be providing the court with who the biological parents are. Regardless of whether or not that they're involved in the child's life, they are still entitled to notice. They are still entitled to know that somebody is coming forward to apply for guardianship of their children. Once they complete the documents and the court is satisfied that we have the information necessary, we issue what's called a notice. And that notice goes to the individual, and they then have to actually serve the mother and the father with notification that they are trying to obtain guardianship.
Oh, wow.
Once that happens, there's a court date established. So the individual comes in today in order to apply for guardianship of a minor, and their court date is usually 6 to 8 weeks out. So in that 6 to 8 week time period is when notification will be sent to the parents and things of that nature. So the biological parents do have an opportunity to object if they don't think that this is in their best interest or the best interest of the child. And if they don't object, they also have the right to say, yes, this is something that I want. And generally, the guardianships are until the children reach the age of 18.
Okay.
But that does not mean that at any time between the time a guardianship is put into place until the child is 18, that either mother or father or guardian can say, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's say the mother says, no, I'm in a better place now. I can fully take care of my children. I want to have that guardianship terminated. She can come in and ask to have the guardianship terminated.
Oh, she can?
She can, as well as the father. Or if the guardian then says, you know what, this is too much for me, I can't do this, which is not uncommon.
Right.
Then they can come in and file with the court a resignation. The court obviously is going to look into what's going on with the family and make sure that this is what's in the best interest of the child, which is where our family service office comes in. They then would be talking to the parties to make sure that this was what was best for the child.
So nothing is forever. So when you get guardianship, it could be taken away from you.
It could be taken away from you. You could step back from it, or it could be until the child is age 18.
So obviously, when a guardianship takes place, it's not forever. That can be rescinded. The parents of the children can ask to have that guardianship returned to them, or the grandparents, if they've got guardianship, as you pointed out, they may find it's too much for them.
Correct.
So it's not forever. That's interesting. I
No,
didn't
it
realize
doesn't.
that.
It doesn't have to be forever. Once somebody is appointed, we call it the permanent guardian. They are guardian until the child is 18, unless a parent comes forward and says they want to have it terminated. or the guardian wants to step back, and then the guardianship does get terminated once the court is satisfied that this is in the best interest of the child. Sometimes what happens is the parent is still not able to provide for the child, and let's say the guardian, it's too much for them, they then suggest another family member, an aunt or something that steps in. So the last resort, if a child cannot be parented by the parent, is turning the child over to the state, because that's not something anybody wants to do.
Right.
So the court does make every effort to reunite families and keep them together.
So that was interesting. So a person, say grandparent, who says this is too much for me, could recommend someone else
Absolutely.
in the family to take
Absolutely.
that on
Absolutely.
and continue that care.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well-
And then they would have to start the process over. They would file the necessary
Okay, so it's-
documentation.
okay.
Let the parents know that they are now going to step in and go through the court process.
Right. That's interesting. So there's a lot to this.
There is.
There's
There
really a lot
is.
to this. Wow. Do you see a lot of this going on now? Of
Yes.
guardianship?
Yes,
changes?
there's a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren right now, and I don't know if that's because parents just aren't willing, or they're not able. The reasons behind it really aren't our concern. In our role as the keeper of the record, it is more that these kids are protected and being taken care of. That's what our main goal is. That
Right.
whatever's in the best interest of those children.
Wow. Well, yeah, it is, no question. I wanted to ask you about name changes, because I know that's part of your responsibility.
It is.
And I'm thinking that this relates, and I could be wrong on this, I'm assuming it relates mostly to women through divorces or
Believe it or not,
Or
it
not.
relates a lot to citizenship.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes, so back in the day, and our elderly population would probably find this more relatable, is oftentimes names were changed basically because it was easier.
Right.
The phonetic spelling was different.
Right.
I always tell this funny story. My mom, God rest her soul, she was Irish, and her name at birth was Mary. My grandmother named her Mary, but they always called her Maureen.
Okay.
So she went through school as Maureen.
Okay.
She got married as Maureen. When she went to retire, her marriage, her birth certificate didn't match her Social Security card. She had to do a legal name change to link the two, to show that
wow.
Mary was in fact Maureen.
Right.
That happens a lot with Jacks, Johns, the name Jack and John in the Irish culture. Another thing would be oftentimes women, when they get married, they drop their middle name and assume their maiden name as their middle name. Unless they've done that legally on their marriage certificate, then they would have to do a legal name change. So a lot of people, they've shortened their names. A lot of the Polish population, they had long Polish last names.
Right.
They shortened them when they went through the citizenship process. So those folks have to do legal name changes. If you want dual citizenship, you have to sometimes come to the probate court to make sure all your documents are that say what they're supposed to say as far as your legal name. And it's becoming more prevalent with the real ID situation. People are finding that when they have to produce those documents to the Registry of Motor Vehicles for that real ID, there's a discrepancy between one document to the other, and they're suggested to come to the probate court and change their name. So women, yes, it does happen with women, but when a woman marries, or whoever marries, there's an opportunity to change your name legally at the time of filling out the marriage certificate. That is considered a form of a legal name change. They then don't have to go back and change their name. If a person gets divorced, they have the right to ask to have their former name at that time, and they don't have to go through the name change process.
Oh, is that right? So they can go revert back to the original name
They can if they
through
ask
the
for
process.
it, through the process. So then there wouldn't be an additional name change process.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's
And if they didn't at the time of the divorce proceeding, then they would have to then do a legal name change.
okay. Well, that's a very interesting tip. So anybody that's thinking about getting a divorce, if they want to get back to the original name, they can do it at that time.
Correct.
Wow. Well, that explains, I was looking at, again online, I'm looking at some of the responsibilities that your office has, and I'm thinking name changes. I'm thinking about, I figured it was just divorces, but I hadn't thought about all the citizenship issues and
Even just a middle
ethnic
name.
names.
If you don't use your middle name and yet your social security card says a middle name on it and your driver's license says no middle name, that's a legal name change. The registry of motor vehicle may require you to do a legal name change in order to get your social security to match your ID, your general ID, your driver's license, just by merely dropping it and not using it.
Yeah, that's interesting. My wife and I travel abroad quite a bit, and, with the passport is
Right.
really critical. And all of our documents, when you're filing for, airline or whatever, you've got to be so careful about those names matching up to, because I don't typically use my middle name. I have one. I don't use it.
Right.
I don't write it out. I don't even list my middle initial. But for legal stuff and making sure that it matches up, it's really critical.
It is. Especially, I bet if you look at your social security card, it might say a middle name on there. And then later on, if your other documents don't,
Right.
you may have to produce something that matches the two
Yeah. Wow.
or blends the two.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to talk about custody issues for a minute because, especially with older adults, dementia issues and those types of things, physical care that's failing. What's involved in people taking over legal custody of taking care of somebody?
There's two types of custody. There's custody of children when one parent or another are going through a divorce proceeding, or unwed parents who's going to actually have the physical custody of the child. That process goes through us. The other type of procedure would be we call it guardianship of incapacitated.
Oh, okay.
So let's say a guardianship of an adult. So let's say your elderly parent has some sort of dementia. You would file, and they're not able to care for themselves any longer, and they need somebody to take care of their medical needs and their physical being. Then they would file for guardianship of incapacitated. They'd have to file the documents, the actual documents pertaining to that case type. They have to provide to us a court-certified medical certificate, which has to be completed by a physician within so many days of filing the application. Once that happens, they're going to get a court date, but they also have to notify parties that the next of kin that they're coming forward to do that. But a guardianship of an incapacitated is only going to take care of the physical person and their day-to-day care. That's not going to take care of their finances. So if they need somebody to take care of their finances, that's a separate application of a petition for conservatorship. That's a different court action.
Oh, wow.
So you could be appointed to represent somebody's assets and not have to have any responsibility for their caretaking, or you could be one for a guardianship and not a conservatorship, or for both.
There's a lot to this.
There's a lot.
Right.
But it's all good, and we're not expecting anybody, obviously, to know all of it, because that's what we're there for.
Yeah, well, we're fortunate we have a great officer to help us through it. What resources are available for people who may need help filling out documents or guidance? They come in, someone like me, I come in, I know I need to do this, but I don't know how to do this.
So I have a staff of 40, and we have a counter schedule, and we also have a telephone schedule that they're on the telephone, and we also have the virtual registry. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to come in and file a petition for conservatorship or guardianship. You'd come up to the counter, and you could describe your situation. My staff would say, it sounds like you want to be appointed to take care of their needs. You'd say yes. We would get the forms out for you. We'd give you the forms. We'd explain the forms to you, how to fill them out. We would explain that there are filing fees with a lot of these forms. We would explain to you that under certain circumstances, you may qualify to have those fees waived.
Oh.
And then once that happened, if you were still having difficulty filling out the form, we have in the trial court what's called a court service center that you could sit down with their staff members, and they will actually go through the form with you and help you fill it out. In addition, on Fridays, there is the Massachusetts Bar Association, or the Hampden County Bar Association has free lawyer of the day, and those are Friday mornings, and they handle probate and family court matters. So you could get some general legal advice if you needed it from one of those folks.
Really?
And if all of that fails, you could always contact a private attorney and have a consultation with someone and have them handle your case for you. But my staff tries really hard, and they do an outstanding job. They are a group of extremely dedicated employees, and we wouldn't be as successful without them. I can say that. But
Right.
they're there to help, and they want to help, and we will help.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting to note. And you said Fridays is free legal advice?
Friday's free legal advice through the Hampden County Bar Association.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to know how to reach them directly, you can call our office and we'll give you the information on that. I don't have it with me right
Yeah,
now.
no. And I think that an earlier show, I remember that coming up. We had an attorney on, and that kind of came up. So I remember some of these shows start to overlap after a while. And I remember that coming up. But that's interesting to note. And, another question that I had, but I think you've already answered it, but I just want to reinforce this, is that your staff do not provide legal advice.
They do not provide legal advice.
Right.
But I'll be honest with you, there's a very fine line between what is legal advice and what is assistance.
Okay.
So what I would say is ask the question, and my staff will tell you, I'm sorry, I can't answer that for you because that would be giving you legal advice. They will tell you that directly.
Okay.
Because, again, there's a fine line between what is legal advice and what is just trying to navigate through the process.
Yeah, okay. But I think people need to be aware of that when you go in. Don't expect that the staff are going to give you all the steps. They can give you guidance in what to do, but they aren't going to recommend.
Well, we'll give you the steps also. What we
Okay.
can't do is we can't tell you what is going to meet your particular needs as far as
Okay.
what you should and what you should not be filing to satisfy what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay,
For instance, somebody might come in and say, do I want a will or do I want a trust? And what do I want to put in my trust? And what tax benefits is that going to give me? That's not something we would be able to answer for you.
okay,
And I would encourage that anybody that's going to go see an attorney to talk to an attorney that specializes in elder law, estate law, or family matters. It's very important to talk to somebody that has experience and knowledge in the subject matter.
okay. Great advice, that's for sure. And the typical timeline, or is there a typical timeline for an estate to clear probate? Is that all over the place?
So that again is the question I think I get asked the most. How long does it take to get through probate?
Right.
And that's a difficult question to answer because what I say getting through probate might be different than what you think getting through probate is. So I'm going to kind of break it down. Someone passes away and you have a will. You file the will and you want to have somebody appointed the personal representative. That process takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get somebody appointed the personal representative or the executrix. Once they're appointed, they have an obligation to what we call corral the assets, to find out what there actually is that needed to be probated. Once they do that, they have 90 days to report to the court what that consists of. They then, at that point, can start doing things according to what the will says. They can pay debts. They can sell real estate. They can take care of all those things. The law requires that an estate be open for 1 year. before it can be closed. What that means is that creditors, anybody that the decedent owed money to, has 1 year to file a claim against the estate.
Oh, is that right?
That doesn't mean that distributions can't be made, partial distributions can't be made. That doesn't mean that real estate can't be sold. That doesn't mean that bills can't be paid. That doesn't mean that. What that means is that there has to be enough assets in that estate to cover any debt that comes in, any claims that come in.
Okay.
So let's say, I'm going to use simple numbers because I'm not a math whiz. So let's say there's $100,000. That's what's consisted of on the estate. And there's 2 children. There's 2 heirs that are going to get it. So rather than give them each the $50,000 that they would be entitled to under the will, split in half, you might want to only give them each $25,000 initially and reserve the other $50,000 until it's time to close the estate, so that if anything comes in, you have ample funds to cover those expenses. Once that 1 year period has ended, you then can do the final distributions, so that folks are still getting some of their inheritance like they would be entitled to. You're still reserving the integrity of the claims that may be filed, and yet you're still doing your job as personal representative.
As an alternative to saying, okay, you get 50, and they don't get anything until a year takes,
Sometimes.
because they've got to wait for all the creditors.
It depends. It depends on who the personal representative is. The personal representative does have the right to say, I don't want to do any distributions until that year is up. Now, if somebody challenges the will, that puts it in a completely different direction, and then litigation is involved. And what people have to understand with will challenges, there's a high standard that has to be met in order to determine that a will is not valid. So keep that in mind, that the cost of litigation is ultimately going to potentially come from your share that you would be entitled to. So really think about the reasons why you're objecting and whether or not you feel it's valid. The other confusing part is that a will only controls the assets that are in the decedent's name alone. So if an account is jointly held, that is not part of what the will determines. Example, I have a joint checking account with your name on it. When I pass, those funds directly go to you, regardless of what I said. I might have said, oh, I'm giving Johnny $10,000. Well, if all I had was $10,000 in a joint account, it's going to you. Johnny isn't getting anything.
Because I'm on the...
Because you're on the account.
I'm on the account.
And that's generally where our litigation comes from, is that there's a family member or a benefactor that was the joint owner of the property, and they take it by operation of law once that person passes, and yet someone else is saying, but the will says I'm supposed to get X, Y, Z. There's not always X, Y, Z to get, because the will is only controlling the names that are in the decedent's name alone.
Wow.
So that's very important that when you do go and have your will done, you explain that to your attorney, that this is what I have, this is how this account is held, this is how this account is held, this is how my real estate is held, and then the attorney then can make the necessary suggestions to you.
So it would be really prudent for our viewers to make sure that they are thinking about these joint accounts that they may be setting up, and how does that potentially conflict with what their interests or desires are within the will.
Correct. The other thing, too, is when you go to the bank and you set up these accounts, or even now your accounts are already set up, ask the bank, ask your representative at the bank, should I pass? Who's entitled to that? Because the way, depending on how you have it listed, it could be upon death, it could be joint owner, it could be either or. So it's important to know exactly how that bank is going to handle the asset as well. So ask your bank representative. There's a lot involved. There's a lot involved.
I was going to say, this is a complicated topic. Holy.
It's complicated, but it's not. And
Right.
and again, we at the probate court are there to assist you. So if you have a question specifically relating to
Right.
you, give us a call and we'll answer it the best way we can.
Yeah, no, that's great. you talked about this early on, but I just want to kind of go a little bit deeper on it. Do people need to come in person to file an action or not?
No. We have many different ways in order to file any action or to receive assistance. We have where they could actually physically come into the Probate and Family Court, which is located in Springfield, 50 State Street, at the courthouse. We have virtual registry, which the information is on mass.gov, in order to talk with a live person to answer any of their questions. We have e-filing, so when they are ready to actually file their pleadings, they can file them through the e-filing system, which they can get the information from mass.gov. On mass.gov, they also list all the forms and instruction sheets on how to fill out the forms and be able to navigate the process that way. We also have a satellite office in Chicopee City Hall. However, right now, as of November 1st, they're going to be temporarily closed due to the renovations of Chicopee City Hall. We are reopening. We're just not sure when that will be based on the logistics of the renovation. And yeah, we're working with other cities to try to get some other opportunities for on-site locations so that people have better access to the probate and family court.
Wow, interesting. So people...
So your short-term question is, no, you don't have to come in.
You don't have to come in person. You can do this right from your home and get on your computer and just do some research. Actually, one of the last questions I had was, where are you located? But it's 50 State Street.
We're 50 State Street. We're in the courthouse. The parking is challenging, but there is free parking. The casino, the MGM casino,
Oh, yeah, right.
allows us to utilize their parking. It's free, or you can park under 91 if and there's a nominal fee there. We do not validate, unfortunately.
Right.
But that's why the satellite offices are very convenient, because people generally can go in, have free parking. It's in close proximity to the parking lots. But again, like I said, Chicopee is going to be under renovation, so we'll have to temporarily close there. But we're there in Springfield every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
And can people just walk in, or should they really need to call ahead to
Nope.
make an appointment?
They can walk in.
Oh, they can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they walk in. We have a queue system where they would come in. There's a general location they would check in to explain what type of a matter they're here for, because as we've talked about, there's many different topics, and we have different subunits that handle each, so that the staff that's manning that particular subject matter is an expert in that field. They'll talk to them, and yeah, there's a nice lobby area that they can wait in, and yeah.
And, I just thought about this. How busy are you? It's really, really busy.
It can be. We, on some days, will have over 100 people come into the office.
Oh, wow.
We handle about 3,000 phone calls a month.
Wow.
It's a busy place. It's a very busy place.
So for people to really be expedient about the use of their time, what's your recommendation? Not just to walk in, but to call and make an appointment, or
No, actually,
not?
no. My suggestion would be is to try to have some sense of what you're trying to accomplish before you get there.
Okay.
Whether it be to file a will or to probate an estate, find out what it is that you need. Go online, check to see what forms are going to be required that you need to bring from home. In other words, if you're filing an estate, you will need a will if you have it. You will
Okay.
need a certified death certificate. Get the documents that we need from other agencies in order to go through the
Oh,
process.
that's important, right?
Come into the office, and then they'll help you out. The wait time generally is no more than 10, 15 minutes
Oh, okay.
to see somebody, and then they'll spend with you the time that they need to. There's no timer that says, oh,
Okay.
you've only got 15 minutes.
Right.
If you're going to take 45 minutes to talk with somebody, then you're going to need that 45 minutes. You're not going to be rushed out of there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Rosemary, we have covered a lot of information here. And I know there's a lot more that's in the vault there that you could share, but with respect to time, I think we're going to kind of bring it to an end here. But I think what this did was it gave our viewers an opportunity to just better understand the probate process, the court, what's available to them for help, how to find the resources that they need, and what they can expect, and what they and don't go in with any false preconceptions of, well, I'm going to get legal advice like this or from the staff. You can get that on Fridays. So
Get that on Fridays.
you got free legal help with attorneys that are there. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to share or offer up that we haven't gotten into at this point?
Not really. I think we've touched upon many different topics. The main takeaway I'd like to provide to folks is that it's not a scary place to be there, to come in. We really are there to help you. We are going to do everything we possibly can to assist you to navigate through the process of whatever process you're going through. I offer periodically seminars, workshops on specific subject matters throughout the community. So, if you, my Facebook page has that information on there if we're going to be doing one. And we talk specifically about certain topics. We did one not too long ago on just specific estate matters. So the folks that came there, we really got into specifics about the estate process, the wills, and things of that nature. And we do individual subject matters on certain things. But other than that, we are there for you. And if I can do anything for anybody that needs my assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah.
My information is online, and just call us. My staff is fabulous. I have a fabulous staff. No, I really do. They are second to none. They're there to help people. They're there every day. And I just can't say that enough about them.
Wow, that's great. Well, Rosemary Sakamani, Register of Probate, I want to thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You are a wealth of information. I love your passion for your work. Thanks to you for a lifetime career, really preparing you for the role that you're in right now. And good luck to you in the election in 2 years. I will be voting myself,
thank
and I
you.
know which box I'll be checking. But you have been a true delight to talk to. And the thing that I would say to our viewers is, it's a little bit of a scary process, and it's not a question of if, it's only a question of when we're going to need that in our lives as far as information, resources, and accessing the probate court for whatever it is that you may be handling at that point. But what I have learned as I was talking with Rosemary off air, and as I've been listening to her during this interview, is that they do not fill the state iconic view of a stodgy staff who really don't care. These are people who do care, and they're passionate about their work, and they're there for a reason, which is to serve you, to guide you, and to help you through the process that you're maybe struggling with. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Recognize that there's information online that you can access. You can call them, you can stop in, you can make an appointment, or you can just walk in. But they're there to help you through the process, and they'll break it down and ensure that this is as seamless and as easy as it can possibly be to get you to your end product. So hopefully I've captured that with what you do with your staff. But again, really, really interesting interview. And Rosemary, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much again for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Just a reminder that this show will be airing every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:45 in the month of October. So if you want to watch it again, you can do so every Tuesday, Thursday at 2:45, month of October. I want to give special thanks to Pete Coles, our WCPC Westfield Cable Channel 15 manager and producer, for his help and support to make this show possible. And on behalf of Pete Coles, Mike Squindo, and Tina Gorman, I'm Harry Rock, and this is another edition of the Westfield Council on Aging Presents. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next show.